You've probably heard the saying, "You are what you eat." But when it comes to senior nutrition, it's hard to know what to believe anymore. One day, eggs are called a cholesterol nightmare. The next, they're a superfood. Coffee is either draining your bones of calcium or protecting your brain. And don't even get me started on butter. With so much conflicting advice, it's no wonder many seniors end up eating the same 5 safe foods week after week, while missing out on nutrients that could keep them strong, sharp, and energized. Let's start with a story about my friend Margaret. At 72, she prided herself on eating healthy, egg whites instead of whole eggs, low-fat yogurt, and plenty of salads. But over time, she noticed her muscles getting weaker. Climbing stairs felt harder. Her doctor asked, a surprising question, "When's the last time you ate something creamy?" Turns out Margaret had fallen for one of the biggest nutrition myths for seniors. Fat is the enemy. Here's what most people don't realize. After 60, your body actually needs certain fats. They protect your brain, keep your joints lubricated, and help absorb vitamins from those salads Margaret loved. But when she switched to fat-free everything, she wasn't just missing flavor. She was robbing her body of tools it needed to stay strong. The fix? Margaret started adding a tablespoon of real butter to her vegetables and switched back to whole eggs. Within weeks, her energy improved. "I feel like I've got my spark back," she told me. Now, let's talk about the food you've been told to avoid that could actually be your secret weapon for staying sharp. Picture this. A 68-year-old man named Bob ate oatmeal every morning because he'd heard it was heart healthy, but he still felt foggy by afternoon. His daughter suggested adding something unexpected, whole milk. Bob resisted at first. Milk is for kids. But here's what changed his mind. Whole milk contains a nutrient called choline, which studies show supports memory and brain function. By switching from water to whole milk in his oatmeal, Bob got a double dose of protein and brain-boosting fats. Now he jokes, "My grandkids can't keep up with me during trivia night." But here's where things get tricky. Many seniors worry about cholesterol, so they avoid foods like eggs, milk, or even avocados. Yes, I've heard people call avocados too fatty. Let's set the record straight. For most older adults, the real danger isn't dietary cholesterol. It's chronic inflammation from processed foods and added sugars. That's why the second myth we're busting today is the idea that all carbs are bad. Take sweet potatoes, for example. Ruth, a 79-year-old gardener, stopped eating them when her son mentioned they're starchy. But sweet potatoes are packed with beta-carotene, which converts to vitamin A in the body, critical for maintaining vision and immune health as we age. Instead of cutting them out, Ruth now roasts sweet potato wedges with olive oil and rosemary. They've become her go-to side dish, and she's noticed fewer colds this winter. The key here isn't to overhaul your diet overnight. Start small. Tomorrow morning, try scrambling a whole egg instead of just egg whites. Add a splash of whole milk to your coffee, or toss a handful of spinach into a smoothie. It's milder than you'd think, and the vitamin K helps your bones absorb calcium better. These tweaks take seconds, but deliver nutrients that store-bought supplements can't match. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: cost. Margaret initially worried that eating healthy meant expensive organic produce or fancy protein powders. But the truth, some of the most nutrient-dense foods for seniors are surprisingly affordable. Canned sardines, for instance, they're rich in omega-3s and calcium, often costing less than $1 per tin. Or frozen berries, which retain more vitamins than out-of-season fresh ones. Even something as simple as a baked potato, with the skin on, provides more potassium than a banana, a mineral that helps regulate blood pressure. The real problem isn't access or budget, it's knowing which myths to ignore and which truths to embrace. Like the idea that seniors need less protein. In reality, after 60, your body requires more protein to maintain muscle mass. That doesn't mean choking down dry chicken breast every day. A single cup of cottage cheese before bed provides slow digesting. Casein protein to support muscle repair overnight. Or try stirring a scoop of unflavored collagen powder into your morning tea. It dissolves completely and helps keep your joints supple. But here's what I want you to remember today. Nutrition after 60 isn't about restriction or complicated rules. It's about working with your changing body, Those leftover habits from 1980s diet culture, they're not serving you anymore. Your body today needs different fuel, foods that fight inflammation, protect your brain, and keep you doing the things you love. And often, those foods are sitting right in your pantry, waiting to be rediscovered. So the next time someone tells you to skip the yolk or avoid butter, think of Margaret, or Bob, or Ruth. Think about how small, smart swaps help them stay vibrant and independent. And remember, you don't have to choose between what's good for your body and what's easy on your wallet. The best foods for seniors are often the simplest ones, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface. You might be thinking, okay, so fats and carbs aren't the villains, but what about the foods that actually keep me full and energized? Let me tell you about my cousin Frank. At 67, he swore by his daily bowl of instant oatmeal, convinced it was the heart-healthy choice. But by mid-morning, he'd feel sluggish, reaching for sugary snacks to power through. Sound familiar? What Frank didn't realize is that his quick-cook oats were stripped of their most valuable part, the bran. That's where the fiber and protein hide, the very nutrients that stabilize blood sugar and keep hunger at bay. Here's the third myth we're busting today. Whole grains are too hard to digest. Truth is, your gut thrives on fiber as you age. It supports digestion, heart health, and even mood. But many seniors avoid whole grains, fearing bloating or discomfort. The fix isn't to skip them, it's to choose the right ones. Take rolled oats, for example. Soak them overnight in milk or yogurt, and they become soft, creamy, and easy to digest. Add a spoonful of peanut butter and a handful of frozen blueberries, and you've got a breakfast that keeps you satisfied for hours. Frank tried this, and within days his snack cravings vanished. Tastes like dessert, he laughs, but my doctor says my cholesterol's never been better. Now let's talk about a food so versatile and affordable, it's a crime more seniors aren't using it daily. I'm referring to beans, yes, beans. Clara, a 73-year-old retired teacher, avoided them for years. Too much work, she'd say, and they make me gassy. But here's what changed her mind. Canned beans. Rinsed thoroughly, they're ready to use in minutes, packed with protein and fiber. Clara started adding them to soups, salads, and even mashed into burger patties. The gas. She learned a trick. Adding a pinch of baking soda to the cooking water neutralizes the compounds that cause discomfort. Now, she keeps a row of canned beans in her pantry, black, kidney, chickpeas, and rotates them weekly. My grandkids call me the bean queen, she says. Little do they know it's the reason I still outdance them at weddings. But here's where many seniors get tripped up. They assume eating healthy means drastic changes. Quinoa salads, kale, smoothies, or other trendy foods that feel foreign. Let's bust myth number 4. You need exotic superfoods to stay healthy. The reality? Some of the most powerful nutrients are hiding in plain sight. Take frozen spinach. It's pre-chopped, cheaper than fresh, and packed with iron and magnesium, nutrients that fight fatigue and support muscle function. Consider Sam, an 80-year-old veteran who hated salads. Rabbit food, he'd grumble, but his daughter sneaked a handful of frozen spinach into his morning scrambled eggs he didn't even taste. 'Cause the spinach blends right in when cooked. Now Sam adds it to pasta sauces, casseroles, even his homemade chili. Turns out Popeye was onto something, he says. I've got the energy to rebuild my old motorcycle, something I thought I'd given up forever. The lesson here? Nutrition after 60 isn't about chasing fads. It's about adapting the classics. That can of beans in your cupboard, a serving of oats, that frozen veggie mix buried in your freezer. They're not boring, they're opportunities. Blend cooked oats into pancake batter for extra fiber. Mash beans into mashed potatoes for creaminess and protein. Stir frozen spinach into soup for a vitamin boost. These tweaks take seconds but add years to your vitality. Now let's address a silent saboteur in many seniors' diets, one that's not about what you eat, but how you eat. Picture this. Helen, 76, ate perfectly on paper. Grilled chicken, steamed veggies, brown rice. But she often ate alone, rushing through meals in front of the TV. Over time, she lost interest in cooking, opting for frozen dinners. Her doctor warned her, loneliness and rushed meals can lead to poor digestion and malnutrition. Here's the 5th myth. Eating habits don't matter as long as the food is healthy. The fix? Make meals an event. Set the table, even if it's just for you. Play music, savor each bite. Helen started inviting a neighbor over twice a week for simple meals, a can of soup jazzed up with extra veggies, or eggs scrambled with leftover rice. Turns out, company is the best seasoning, she says. Studies show eating with others improves nutrient absorption and portion control, plus it's just more fun. If you've ever skipped a meal because cooking felt pointless, comment "Me too" below. You're not alone. And it's never too late to reignite the joy of eating. Stick with me because what comes next is crucial, especially if you've ever worried about grocery bills or complicated recipes. The truth is, the healthiest foods are often the simplest. But there's one myth left that could be holding you back more than any other, and it's not what you'd expect. Let's talk about something you might not even realize is shaping your meals: the fear of not doing enough. Maybe you've stood in the grocery aisle, staring at bottles of vitamins and protein powders, wondering if you need them to stay healthy. Or perhaps you've skipped meals because cooking felt overwhelming. I want to introduce you to my neighbor, Henry. At 81, he'd gotten so overwhelmed by conflicting advice that he lived on toast and tea for weeks. "Why bother?" he'd say. Then one evening, he stumbled getting out of his chair, not from a health crisis, but from sheer exhaustion. His doctor said two words that changed everything. "You're dehydrated." This brings us to myth number 6. Thirst fades with age, so you don't need as much water. Truth is, your sense of thirst does diminish after 60, but your need for hydration doesn't. In fact, dehydration is one of the top reasons seniors end up in. It causes confusion, dizziness, and even mimics dementia. But here's the good news. You don't have to chug 8 glasses of water a day. Instead, eat your hydration. Foods like cucumbers, watermelon, and even cottage cheese are over 70% water. Henry started adding sliced cucumber to his afternoon tea sandwiches and mixing watermelon chunks into his morning yogurt. "It's like a tune-up for my body," he says. "I can think clearer and my legs don't feel like lead weights anymore." Now let's tackle the final myth, one that's cost seniors millions in wasted money and missed nutrition. Meat. Diane, a 69-year-old who spent hundreds on calcium supplements after her osteoporosis diagnosis. "The pills made me nauseous," she admits, "but I thought they were my only option." Then her granddaughter showed her a study. The calcium in canned salmon with bones is 25% more absorbable than most supplements. Diane started adding mashed canned salmon to her mashed potatoes. Not only did her calcium levels improve, but she also got a boost of vitamin D and omega-3s. "Tastes better than pills," she laughs, "and my cat loves the leftovers." This leads us to myth 7. Supplements are safer than real food. While supplements have their place, they can't replicate the complex nutrients in whole foods. For instance, spinach gives you iron plus vitamin C to help absorb it, something a lone iron pill can't do. Even better, many medicinal foods cost less than a bottle of vitamins. A tin of sardines costs about $1 and gives you enough. Vitamin B12 for a day, a nutrient critical for nerve health. But here's what I really want you to take away. Aging well isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Maybe today you'll swap supplement pills for a salmon patty. Tomorrow you'll toss frozen berries into oatmeal. Each small choice is a stitch in the tapestry of your health. Think about George, an 85-year-old who believed he'd missed his chance to eat better. Then his daughter brought him a single avocado, creamy, rich, and packed with heart-healthy fats. He'd never tried one before. Now, he spreads mashed avocado on toast every morning. "Turns out, my best years aren't behind me," he says. "They're right here with this green goop." So let's end with a challenge, one that takes 10 seconds but could change your next meal. Open your pantry right now, see that can of beans? Rinse it, mash it, and stir it into soup. Spot those frozen veggies, microwave a handful and toss them with olive oil. Find an egg, boil it, and slice it over last night's leftovers. Your body doesn't need a fancy diet. It needs you trusting that you know how to nourish it, one simple bite at a time. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by nutrition advice, comment "done" below after you try one of these tips. Let's celebrate your win together. And if you're still watching, take a second to share this video with a friend. Maybe they're stuck in the same rut, convinced healthy eating is too hard or expensive. Show them how a can of beans or a frozen berry can be a tiny act of rebellion against myths, against aging stereotypes, against giving up. Remember, Every meal is a fresh start. A chance to fuel your walks, your laughs, your late-night card games. You don't need a pharmacy or a chef's kitchen, just your pantry, your wisdom, and the courage to say, let's try something different today. Here's to your strongest, sharpest, most flavorful chapter yet. Comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so don't hold back. Your input means a lot to us. Reading your comments keeps us motivated and inspired. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us keep bringing you valuable content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.